And now, without much ado, let's cross over to the county of Mandera, specifically in Banissa, where we have David Mudoka standing by with an update. David, good afternoon. What's it like in Banissa?
And to be more specific, this is the Banissa Vocational College. It is one of the 81 polling centers that was set up and set aside here in Banissa for the voters to stream in and cast their vote. And the situation here at this particular polling center is a bit different from the situation that we've seen, especially in other polling centers within Banissa town and its outskirts. This is actually at the outskirts of Banissa town because here the turnout is incredibly low. While in these other polling centers within Banissa town, we've found queues as well as some life and activity. Here, speaking to the polling officials, we have gathered that they are going for longer stretches without seeing any voter. When we were here about 20 minutes ago, we found a voter who was just going through the process, and after casting her vote, after leaving, there's been no voter who's come in to exercise their democratic right. And this paints the picture of a low voter turnout in some of the polling centers here. And actually speaking to the IEBC team that is on the ground, and to be specific, IEBC Commissioner Hassan Nur Hassan, he told us at 1 p.m. that the issue of low voter turnout was anticipated by the IEBC. One, because this is a by-election and it is a situation that is likely also to be witnessed in other by-elections across the country. But also secondly, there has been a persistent drought in this region, and a majority of residents who are pastoralists have since moved to other regions in search for literally greener pastures, and that's why the turnout in a majority of the 81 polling centers is a bit low. But he told us that as at 1 p.m., the turnout was at 30%, and in a region where the registered voters as at 2022 were 32,000, 30% translates to approximately over 9,000 or 10,000 voters. But he told us by the closing of the polls at 5 p.m., which is in about 2 hours from now, they anticipate that at least 50% of that 32%, or rather that 32,000 will have turned out and turned up to vote for their favorite candidate. This translating to about 11,000 to 12,000 voters to elect their next leader. This is surely a region that has craved and desired a leader or a member of parliament. Remember, they have been without representation for over 2 years and 8 months, and they have been complaining. We had residents who even moved to the court to try to convince the court to compel IEBC to conduct a by-election here pronto. But indeed, at the time, for quite some time, for over a year, since the departures of all the commissioners through different ways at the IEBC, that is in early 2023, the IEBC's hands were tied and the commission could not conduct a by-election until earlier this year, when we saw the commission, or rather, yes, the commission reconstituted again, and a new IEBC chairperson come into place, as well as new 6 commissioners come into place. And so the choices are two, and the voters here have either a government candidate or an opposition candidate to fill the shoes of the late Kulo Maalim Hassan, who passed away in March 2023. At the time of passing, he was a member of the UDA party, and seeking to fill his shoes is his brother, Ahmed Maalim Hassan, who is also flying the UDA party flag. And we actually spoke to him earlier, where he had some hitches, where there were some hitches with him casting his vote, though he eventually managed to do it. And he was upbeat and optimistic that he will be emerging triumphant and that he will be carrying the day and filling the shoes of his older brother. But he faces opposition from an opposition candidate, and this is a candidate of the United Progressive Alliance, and this is Nurdin Mali Mohammed, who cast his vote sometimes earlier today at around 7 a.m. at one of the polling centers just at the peripheries of Banissa constituency. We couldn't quite reach there, but he still promised to speak to us to tell us what his expectations are. But so far, the key highlights of this particular by-election is low voter turnout, but at the same time, it's been a peaceful process, zero moments or zero incidents of violence. And so we will be monitoring the situation over the next 2 hours, because at a majority of these polling centers, polling or voting began at exactly 6 a.m. and they will be closing at 5 p.m. exactly, just to see what transpires within the next 2 hours, and now what transpires after 5 p.m. because that's when the final phase kicks in, and that will be the tallying of the votes. And with this low voter turnout, perhaps by midnight, we are likely to see who will be the next member of parliament of Banissa for at least the next 2 years.